Lois, there's something I have to tell you. I'm really...
I was, at first, really nervous about tonight. But then I decided, well, darn it, I was going to show you the time of your life.
James! Okay, good. Oh, thank God, it is James.
Hey, Benny, how you doing?
I thought you'd be wearing a pair of glasses. I wouldn't actually know who you were.
Yeah, that was quite a disguise, I think. Just hair color and glasses. I'm still reeling from that line, Big Fanny will take it in the end. I was just, I like that. But yeah, I think I agree with you. I think this is probably my favorite investigation that I've ever done. And I think because it involves the White House and because I was the one recording it, it adds many layers of irony.
We've played some of your previous reporting, and we played these clips yesterday on the show, James, from your most recent reports on the White House, from inside of the White House. But I would like to have you sort of set the table for anyone who hasn't seen the footage as to what the newest sting was with the O'Keefe Media Group.
Thank you, Benny, and thanks for having me on. This is the second most watched video I've ever done in 20 years. This guy is in the executive office of the White House. He works in cybersecurity. He goes to Harvard, went to Georgetown, and he's a fairly high up level, deep state, administrative state employee. He supervises the State Department and USAID. In fact, he worked at the State Department for 4 years. And I met with him, and all I did was put on glasses and dye my hair orange. And he started, initially he was a little cold, but he started singing like a bird. He talked about things that nothing would surprise your audience. Nothing I do surprises anybody, but it confirms what we might know to be true. He said that they tried to get rid of Kamala Harris, but they can't do so because she is, quote, a black woman, and that she hemorrhages black staff. What he meant by that is that all of the black staff that work for Kamala don't like her and they quit en masse, his words. He also said he confirmed Joe Biden's cognitive decline. It's very rare, Benny, to get a Democrat or a White House official to say this on the record. I don't even think we've ever seen a White House official, certainly not on video, say it. Anonymous sources have said it. And finally, he says a lot of things, but he also said he met with Michelle Obama. He was in the room with Michelle Obama, and he says that she doesn't want to run because she doesn't want to go through what her husband went through. So that was very interesting. And then, of course, I take off my disguise and say, what type of clown show you boys running over there in the White House to be meeting with James O'Keefe? And there's this moment of absolute shock. And at first, he doesn't really know what's going on. And then he goes into talking point mode, Benny. He's like, well, the White House takes cybersecurity very seriously. It's a really remarkable take.
They're so good at this.
I mean, that's my.
It's a wonder why China and Iran and Russia are able to hack our country every single day.
That's another. So my staff and I were saying, like, if I get nothing out of this guy, just the fact that he met with me is a story. Because I'm a journalist, so my job is to get the information so the public can know it. But what if I were a spy? What if I were a Chinese spy or a Russian spy? I mean, is this how easy it is to infiltrate the White House?
Right.
What is it, getting blackmail? It's not my purpose. But what if someone else was doing it for that reason? That's probably the biggest story here.
You can buy state secrets for tacos at happy hour and a margarita with a salted rim.
It was one glass of wine. I don't even think he finished his glass of wine. People think, oh, you got him drunk. No, he drank half a glass of red wine. I had chicken fingers, and that was it.
Wow. Now, did you meet on Tinder or Grindr, or how did you reach out to this person? Can you reveal these trade secrets?
Yeah, it was actually Tinder. And he had a LinkedIn account. He did all of our background. I don't want to get into every single thing that we do behind the scenes, but of course, we nowadays you can pretty easily, using open source programs, identify who someone is and verify who someone is. But on his LinkedIn account, his Facebook account, his Instagram, he said that he worked in cybersecurity and in the White House. Able to verify this, and then we break the story Wednesday afternoon, and he instantly takes everything down, but not before I went through those and captured them and took pictures of them. Benny, we don't know his status at the White House. Not one single reporter has asked a question of the White House. This video has gotten viewed like 25 million times. And I think what you said is correct. The fact that they say nothing, they can't criticize it, means that it is a pretty big blow to the talking points that they have. And there's a gap between how people in the government talk on the record and how they just talk normally. They just and as long as there is that gap between the Potemkin aspect, the state aspect of the official record, and what the truth is, there'll always be ripe opportunities for people like me to come in and expose it.
Yes. And so you said something very prescient, which is that this doesn't shock us that Joe Biden is suffering early dementia style symptoms. Everybody sees it. And it doesn't shock us that everyone hates Kamala Harris. It's pretty obvious, actually. It's just pretty shocking that everyone in the White House is in on the lie, right? Like, they talk a lot about the big lie.
Yes.
They just dropped the Trump case from the docket in D.C., but it seems like the big lie is that they all are using Joe Biden as a warmed over corpse for power. They all know he does not deserve the presidency. He doesn't, and neither does Kamala.
Yeah, there's this artifice that pervades everyone knows this, of course. It's like society is like this. We know there's an artifice. We know it's all phony. I forgot her name, but the press secretary at the White House, and
Cringe Jean-Pierre.
That her and Joy Reid on MSNBC, they all just they talk with these ridiculous phony talking points, and we all sort of participate in it, and that's just how the world is. But as long as there's a gap between those talking points and the reality, then people in bars and restaurants will talk to their friends and boyfriends and dates differently than the talking point. And I go to this moment. This was the video I released yesterday. This is the second video where I take off my glasses. I'm like, what are you doing? Chris Hansen style. What are you doing? And he goes, and I say, what type of cybersecurity operation you guys running over there? And he goes, we are running a very good cybersecurity operation. The White House has just enforced executive. And it was like, but 5 minutes ago, this is not how you were talking. So people say, how do you get, so this is the two questions I guess. How do you get these guys to do these? It's not that I don't have any special powers. It's just that these are just human beings don't talk like an official North Korea style talking point. They talk just normally when you open. And the other thing I'll say is that this man is not stupid. He's not a low level guy. He's fairly high up. Yeah. And he did try to turn it around on me. He's like, so where did you go to college? And I said, and I was like, I'm not in, you're like James Bond. I'm like, I'm nothing. And so people are very narcissistic and they like to talk about themselves. And it's amazing what people will tell you if you just express genuine interest in them, which is another thing that they don't do in Washington, D.C. They don't ask questions about you. They're very interested in themselves. They have grandiose images of themselves. And this guy was no exception.
What a profound point, because they all believe that they are living inside of their own Aaron Sorkin miniseries and that they are the star of that series. I've lived in Washington for 15 years. This is absolutely the attitude that permeates the city. Using their own narcissism against themselves is genius, James.
Yeah, there's this one moment in the tape. I usually don't put the Tradecraft in. I'll just put the content in. But there was one moment when he asked me, so you went to Rutgers. By the way, I actually did go to Rutgers. He goes, you majored in journalism. I did do journalism in college. And I'm like, but that's not interesting. I mean, you went to Oxford, Harvard. You're just like a movie. And he goes, oh, stop. he just, I mean, turned it right back around. I mean, because I'm trying to show people that's exactly right, Benny. As long as the society is rotten, as long as people are so, for lack of a better word, narcissistic, as long as people preach one thing in public and say another in private, it'll be relatively easy for me to go get these stories. And other people saying, Benny, that, well, this doesn't matter because it's not a scoop because we already know this to be true. And I would say to that, most Americans don't really pay attention. You guys do, your audience does, a few million people do. But I think that this moves the needle insofar as people who they kind of believe the official talking point when they see something like this go, whoa. So a lot of people, it will move the needle. And again, it's another thing to get them to say it. It's another thing to know something, but to actually see it verified is an entirely different thing.
So, and this is the point. I mean, I think that it's been written, the fact that everyone hates Kamala has been quite written, right? Like that's, you can see the people leaving her office, and you can see the black people on her staff leaving her office in droves. So that's been reported out. What is a firm line that shall not be crossed is Joe Biden doesn't have dementia, right? Mm-hmm. Joe Biden's fit as a fiddle. Jill Biden, she gets angry and very snipey when somebody asks about Joe Biden's health and mental health. She bristles and gets upset and goes on the attack, right? And so that is the fortress that you're not allowed to penetrate, okay? Joe Biden's mental stability. And even though we all see it and all the polling shows that is something that the American people are deeply bothered about, that's the White Castle kingdom that you're not allowed to storm. Joe Biden's peak of health, right? And so I think that this is actually the biggest news out of the interview. If you don't mind, I'm just going to play a short clip here where the man straight up admits, and this is not just a man, this is a man who works inside the executive office. This is also, by the way, most federal employees that work in the executive branch, 1,000 work outside of the executive office, for every one that works in the executive office. So this is about as high ranking of official as you can possibly get, saying, Yep, we all know that Joe Biden is straight up early onset dementia. Watch.
Everything that Biden is doing, I love his policies. Just witnessing it just looks, it's a bad look. I mean, he can't, struggles to talk.
Yes, he's no Barack Obama.
Is he going to be the nominee?
Yes. And she will be the vice president nominee.
Yeah,
There was a debate about removing her from the ticket, but sadly they didn't.
I agree with everything Biden is doing. It's just his cognitive ability. A have a grandfather who's 91.
Okay.
And Joe Biden is worse than my grandfather who has dementia.
Yeah.
He's sort of walking like this, and he's sort of and I think that voters are going to look at that, and it's going to hurt us. I think that independents are going to look at that, and they're going to be like, I can't deal with that. But with him, I know. He's got dementia.
Well, I don't think he has that clinically yet.
No, yeah.
But he's definitely slowing down.
Well, my question is, are the people, like your colleagues or in the White House or whatever, do they get it? Do they know that?
I think that they probably do, but no one in modern history has ever said, we're not going to renominate the president for a second term. That just hasn't happened.
So they know that he has those issues.
I think so.
But they're not willing to say it.
Shows it. And
they're not willing to say it publicly.
The polling shows it. The polling's up on screen here, James. And he's now admitting, of course, obviously, that everyone is able to say the king has no clothes, the sky is blue, 2 + 2 = 4. We're the ones living in the big lie.
Yeah, it's just that poll doesn't say 100%. It says 68. So 32% of people don't have worries about Biden's decline. And perhaps that's the audience that this video speaks to. Because they don't believe you or your audience or conservatives or pundits or commentators, but do they believe someone that works in the executive office of the White House? And I thought the quote, they're the lead journalistically, and that what you just played was they can't say it publicly. Whenever someone says that to me, that's when I go ding, ding, ding. That's when I'm like, okay, please be recording. Please say, could you say that again just the way you said it? Whenever they say we can't say or do things, we can't do anything we're not willing to acknowledge that we're doing. We can't. That to me is always the story, because if there's one thing, Benny, that I think voters don't like, it's being lied to. That's a universal axiom, regardless of your politics or your stances on immigration or abortion or whatever. No one likes being lied to. It's the lying part. Why do you have to lie? Why do you have to say something over here and then say the opposite? And that admission is so devastating whenever we get that part on camera. Just like with the Pfizer guy a year ago, he said, don't tell anybody this. And of course, that's the moment. I just want to make sure that my watch is fully charged here.
Hold on. I'm just adjusting my glasses. Would you mind?
You'll always see me look down at the equipment when they say that, just to make sure and double check that it's functioning properly.
So is this the James O'Keefe Halloween outfit? If you're looking for an easy Halloween outfit,
we got a lot of disguises, but one of my rules is the way you carry yourself, your manner always matters more than your disguise. So the undercover work, I try to, if I'm using an alias or I'm using a cover, it has to mirror pretty closely who I am. So in this case, I wasn't technically a journalist. I said I worked for a printing company, which is not false. And I published brochures, also not false. I do that just so that I could speak authentically and honestly about what I do, because people, and when you just create a totally fake story, sometimes it doesn't come across as authentically.
This is a very important, I think, meme for the history of the internet, obviously for the country. This is James O'Keefe.
Oh boy.
This is what. OMG, tell me more. That's this may be next, but the memes are flowing. We have a couple here.
Flowing.
We have a couple here for you. James O'Keefe, but it's an undercover gay man.
There was this one.
Totally. Hi, it's me. Totally not James O'Keefe.
3 years ago. I know. Let's let one sink in. When 23, John Stewart was hired by. This is like 2000. I was in high school, and there was a commercial, and John Stewart was being hired by the Daily Show. And he's like, "I am not gay." So I remember this commercial because I am 0% gay, but I'll take one for the team. I'll do what I got to do to get the story. But that confident in my masculinity, I will do whatever it takes. But honestly, we don't touch these people. We don't even hold their hand. It's just about asking about them and expressing genuine interest. I like that one. It says James O'Keefe, but as undercover gay man, it's literally just me in glasses.
It's just you in glasses. So what do you think's gonna? I did want to ask one very serious question, because you went thermonuclear before dropping this video, which is quite unique. The videos had 20 million views, but your tweet saying, "I'm going to be suicided potentially for this." Why did you tweet that? And do you have credible knowledge that there is a threat on your life?
Well, I would say that I haven't released everything yet. I mean, I have tapes in my inventory, and the reason I wrote that, to get serious for a moment, because some people thought it was like melodramatic, because everyone's always asking me this question, Benny, like, why aren't you afraid? I'm afraid for you. Do you fear for your life? I mean, it's overwhelming. It's nonstop. Now, I don't actually feel that. I don't walk around going, gee, I'm so scared that someone's going to hurt me. I don't live my life that way. I never frankly have. But I took the time, I took a few hours to write a very carefully worded note from the heart. I wrote that, every word I thought very carefully, because I wanted that to be kind of like my opus in response to anybody who asked me about fear. I am tired of people saying, James O'Keefe, you need to be afraid. Why aren't you afraid for your life? They're going to kill you. I'm like, all right, listen, I'm not suicidal. I'm not, but I'm also prepared to die. In other words, I don't fear death. I believe in what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. I would say I'm more akin to an artist than a political person. And that message was designed to be sent to people to say, listen, I'm a Christian guy. I don't know what's going to happen to me, and that's not up to me. What's up to me is to do my job and to find other people who will do it alongside me. And to quote Clarence Thomas, who said it so eloquently in '91, if they're going to kill me, they're going to kill me. And he's alive and well, and he's doing pretty well right now.
Nothing makes them angrier than somebody flourishing. In spite of everything that they've thrown at you, you continue to flourish. In the same vein as Clarence Thomas, Tucker Carlson comes to mind, Donald Trump comes to mind. That you can't kill an idea, and you can't defeat an army of happy warriors, and that's what you're creating, James.
Well, the most important part of that post, Benny, I thought, was the enemy, like the Leviathan, the government, the White House, this agency, the IRS, all the things I'm exposing. That's not really the enemy. The enemy is the people amongst us who are weak, who betray us. I mean, look at Tucker. He was fired by Fox, and that was very near when I was fired by the company I founded. And that's the enemy, not the thing that we're fighting, because it's the people who do nothing. That paragraph right there. I mean, the enemy cannot betray you, Benny. Only people that you think are good can hurt you, can really wound you, which was what happened to me a year ago. Things like envy, things like greed, love of money, love of power, and frankly, the worst one, weakness and cowardice. That surrounds me like a cloud. I deal with it every day. I fight it every hour of the day. That's the thing that I'm fighting. So for the people who say, "Aren't you afraid?" I say, I'm fighting those things. Let's get beyond those things and find the people with the strength and the willingness to go do the thing alongside me. That's why I wrote that.
I know that Andrew Breitbart is in heaven, smiling down on your work. He is someone who has inspired so many of us. In fact, we just wouldn't really have a movement. I wonder what I shiver thinking about what our movement would look like without Andrew Breitbart, even though I think he's been passed for a decade now. And yet here we are talking about the profound effect he's had on us. And what he always said is that politics is downstream of culture. You have to be able to create something that people see and that it affects them, and it's powerful. It means something to their lives. And so here we go, James. Congratulations. One of your biggest bangers. I wonder if it'll be the biggest video you ever make.
My favorite. I think it's personally, it's the favorite one I've done since college. This is my favorite one because of the fact the guy's in the White House and the fact that he didn't recognize me. It is a commentary on human nature. It's a security breach. Jack Percevic told me this is a security breach. And it's just funny. It confirms everything we know to be true, but we can see it. The truth matters. And Benny, sometimes people just need to hear it from your friend, but to see it with your own eyes, it makes all the difference in the world.
That's right. 23 million views. 23 million views. Man, I used to work in cable news. That's like more than all the prime times of all the networks combined. So screw them, like F them, right? Like if they don't cover this, which they haven't, as far as I know, this is bigger than.
What's the question is this guy still employed? I mean, has anyone asked a question?
Right.
I mean,
that's right.
I don't know if it will report, but anyway, you're right, Benny. It's a big deal, and there's more to come. And this is just the beginning for OMG and O'KeefeMediaGroup.com. Check it out. And every Wednesday at 4:00, we release another story. So stay tuned.
O'KeefeMediaGroup.com. There is the website right there. You can go. You can support James and his work. I encourage you to do so because the First Amendment was written for people like James, not for the bootlickers in the corporate press that just are there to protect their billionaire bosses. That's not actually why the First Amendment was written. The First Amendment was written for people to protect people like James, and we should all unite around him and support his work. Godspeed, James.
Godspeed, Ben. Thanks.